So, we're on the next podcast, and this was an exciting adventure that I had in America. I hope you like it. It's the meeting and greeting and maybe eating of Joe Rogan. I think it's going to be in 5 parts, but have a listen. Hope you enjoy it. I do not appreciate many things in the everyday world, but I do like to listen to a podcast or two. I love There Is No Such Thing as Fish, and my other guilty secret is Joe Rogan's podcast. For those who don't know, there is this man in America, you might just have heard of him, and his name is Joe Rogan. I believe he has a very popular podcast that he does on Spotify. He speaks to quasi-interesting folk about life and stuff in long-form interviews that get down to the nitty-gritty of people's thoughts and ideas. He gets people with diverse opinions on a range of various topics. I think he does a great job, and they're never dull. He also loves werewolves for some unbeknownst reason. He has certainly come under scrutiny for speaking to people who have differing ideas about the COVID thing you guys are dealing with. Apparently, what you have to do to be accepted in this world is not have any ideas that are currently seen as incorrect. Sadly, you humans and your scientists are very incorrect about COVID. Please find my video on how COVID actually came about if you want to know the actual truth of how this innocuous little virus has come. Suppose you stray from the norm with your ideas, you are a pariah and you should be punished for asking such questions as, what if? Oh, wait a minute, what if the current research does not meet scrutiny? I describe the scientific method where people propose an idea and then do their damnedest to disprove it. That is science. We expound the best theory we have for something at this moment. We're constantly moving towards further understanding and throwing our theories onto an unforgiving scientific world. I love the fact that artists, as they are called, are pulling their work from Spotify because Joe chatted to people with differing ideas. Wow, you will take away your amazing tunes from the world in the name of a hissy fit? Sad world to which we've come. Neil Young, I thought more of you, sir. Joe's interviewees might be wrong, they might be correct, but what happened to the human right of free speech? Oh wait, that's it. It only exists when we need it, not when others express differing opinions. Free speech only counts if it is your free speech or those that you agree with. Perfect use of a made-up human right there. There again, if you listen to Eddie Bravo, who's Joe's best friend, you would maybe decide he's evil carnate with his conspiracy theories. I mean, he seems to be convinced that we are being lied to about everything. I mean, everything. He seems to think that the government or the super rich can hush up certain things. Oh, wait a minute, they hush me up, so maybe they can. I don't know. The great difficulty is that I love listening to him and people like him. Why not let him talk? It is impressive what he believes. Flat Earth, Vatican Satanists, and in werewolves? Maybe. I first saw Joe on the delightful UFC thing, the crazily called Ultimate Fighting Championships. Ultimate Fighting? Have they never been in a war zone? It's that mixed martial arts thingy where humans fight each other. I often like to watch it for a bit of a giggle, watching, the under-evolved fight the other under-evolved in an octagonal cage using hands, feet and squidgy stuff. It's quite adorable, and I have to say I do like some of the theatrics that we see behind the scenes as it goes on. I love the fighters antagonising each other to try out, out-mental each other. It's fun to watch. The people are impressed by the damage these warriors can do to each other. Can you imagine if they had sharp-edged weapons or teeth and claws? Oh, I know, that would be inhumane. Inhumane would be much more fun to watch, though, in my unhumbled and correct opinion. That is not the point of the piece I'm writing, but I did go and get a black belt in BJJ. His belt didn't help him. Although it's supposed to be the best and ultimate system for protecting humans against humans, I have to say that it has fuck all against werewolf teeth and claws, and no rules means BJJ doesn't work very well. He pulled guard, I believe they call it. I pulled out his guts. Evolve better tools, humans, for unarmed combat. You are too soft and squidgy to be an effective threat. Hey, do not get me wrong. I realise that mixed martial arts is probably the way to get your technique down for fighting. I train in many gyms as I can with many different coaches. I have a coach in Scotland I get on with really well. I like him a bit because he shares Fenrir as his first name, just like my posit. I genuinely think MMA was the deciding factor when I fought against other werewolves in fisticuffs. Other werewolves have a basic approach of tackling you and then teeth and claws. Easy to deal with if you have a little technical training. My training had been the deciding factor in every battle with another were creature. Anyway, that's a different story about my training. I do mixed martial arts with humans, and I have to admit that I have a little bit of respect for the warriors who train in this art. That is one way that I mix with humans, where I'm impressed by the technical prowess of these athletes. Anyway, I don't know why I got off track, but let me carry on with the real reason for this story. I know that Joe hunts, and he likes to go out into the middle of nowhere to do it. My new adventure would be to track him in the woods and maul him. It would be the perfect opportunity to reverse the whole thing and hunt him. Let's see how he likes it. Now, he likes to hunt elk, which I enjoy hunting myself. I've gone into the details of hunting elk in the Urals with a pack of werewolves in another story. The Ural Mountains are home to the largest of these animals globally, but Utah might be fun. I can hunt elk and humans out there in Utah. Well, I could hunt humans in the Ural Mountains, but it wouldn't be as much fun as, hunting peasants as it would be a full-on high media profile blokey. Let the fun begin. This would involve me finding the legends somewhere in the mountains. It was going to be fun. I used a local source of information to find out when he would be landing in Salt Lake City and where the hunt would begin. Yay! So that gets me on a plane to fucking Utah, of all places. I wouldn't say I like journeys in public planes. I always go first class. I don't ever particularly appreciate having a person next to me for a flight, so I often buy the seat next to myself if they're not in the singular. At least the posit then gets, his bit of space in that case. He does moan excessively if I don't give him his spot. It was disappointingly easy to track Joe down. All his fans love him, so he seems to be followed by crazy people everywhere and their media. I wonder what it's like to be that loved by that many beings. I followed him in his big black SUV with his big black bodyguard driver type thing. I was doing the ultimate American narrative of riding a big fat Harley. Well, it wasn't the bike I wanted when I went out there, but it was so much better. Can I just wax lyrical for a moment? I hope you don't mind. This was not the Fat Bob I went for. It was a 1974 shovel head custom with high bars and more chrome than would be healthy for a 1980s gay nightclub. Fuck me, it was a nice bike. Honestly, the lines were created on the day of my birth as a human. That sold it. Best $21,000 that I have ever almost spent. I mean, I was almost willing to buy it, but after half an hour of a chat with the guy selling it, he decided to give it me so that he could stay alive. Sensible from him. He even filled the tank for me, which was genuinely, wonderful of him. He did not have to go to those lengths for me, but what a guy. After he'd signed all the paperwork, I did the last thing I needed to do. Well, I made sure there would be no more comeback, the idea of him saying I forced him to give it to me, so I did the only thing that would fully guarantee no comeback. I killed him. He's now a missing person, but the police will not be looking too hard for him, will they? They do not give a fuck about bikers, especially the 1%ers, so I don't think I need worry about the police now. Maybe have to worry about his bearded badass buddies, but that could be a fun adventure in itself. Okay, back to the story in hand. He pulled out with his driver into the traffic and I started up and engaged my sweet ride to drop in a few cars behind him. Now, you might be wondering why a bike. Firstly, I am impulsive and rich, so I can buy one if I wish. Secondly, I've been diagnosed with ASPD, which means I love doing stupid and risky things. I suppose riding a bike is risky. I mean, it's damn unlikely I will die in a crash, but the world would end if anyone was to hit this bike. So maybe not too risky for me, but super risky for other road users. Thirdly, while working in the government, I found that a bike can get through traffic a lot easier than a big fuck-off car. I was also hamming it up a little with the werewolf patched leather cut and all the bad boy biker paraphernalia. I'd even gone for the aviators and neckerchief and the brand old leather. It was fun. Risky, but fun. Due to my newly absorbed persona, I'd already had a run-in with some Hell's Angels that I believe they call it a diner. They'd taken umbrage at the patch that I wore on my cut. Apparently, every cunt was wearing a fucking patch of some kind since Sons of Anarchy, and the bikers had a new sport of teaching these false cut wearers a lesson or two about reality. I mean, I appreciate shit like that, but they should have got the idea that I was not in a gang because I was on my fucking own, and the patch at the top of my back said Lone Wolf. Not a gang if I say Lone Wolf. 5 of them were at the station and about to get onto the road again. They waited for me to go and pay and dropped in behind me and followed me into the toilets. Sadly, it wasn't for the usual cottaging, which, to be honest with them, would maybe have been fun, but to beat the crap out of the nerd in the false cut. I'd not turned into my wolfy form because I didn't want to ruin my duds and did not have enough time to take them off. The thing I love most about fighting in a bathroom is the availability of porcelain to crash skulls into. I was looking forward to the sounds and smells of head smashing on smooth china and was gutted when it was plastic inside. How on earth are we supposed to have fun with plastic? When I slammed the head off the plastic, it did make an interesting noise. Boink! But did not crush skulls, so that kind of spoilt my artistic ideals. But I made do with the unlimited equipment and the limited equipment and put on an art installation in each stall. It would take a lot of cleaning up, but I took some photos of the results, and my artwork was big, bearded bastards broken in bits in a bog, and it was very pleasing to my specialist niche appreciation. Oh, and to add another obvious thing about killing a bathroom is that I get to use the facilities to clean myself up after. They are sort of designed for killing and then cleaning. Oh, and even better, on the way out I got to do a proper American movie moment where I flipped the sign that said currently being cleaned and walked away. Fucking awesome. I'd have to keep an eye on the media to see if this came up, how they would deal with it. I was 100% sure that was on CCTV, so they would put out an APB on me, whatever one of those is. They say it in all of, the American cop shows, so they must do it. I quite like the idea of bike gangs. I placed their cuts over the bikes in the parking area out of mild respect. Mild respect, I have to say. Not following the laws imposed on them by society. You have to admire them a little bit. Yet another story there. I seem to rack them up as I make my way in life. People end up dying around me. I mean, I don't think that it all happens by chance. I am the common denominator. I like to think that this all happens because of me. Right, back to the story. After my little art break, I had dropped in behind the SUV and happily followed it while listening to some 70s and 80s classic American rock. The bike had been a bit of a pain in the arse in the city. The gearing system is something to get used to on these old hogs, but as soon as we got onto the I-80 and started to cruise, it was different. This was fun, and I knew that it would only get more fun. Sweet Home Alabama was banging in my ears. Fen, well, he was a bit unhappy about riding pillion. I mean, wolves are not meant to ride pillion on Harleys, and although he pretended that he was cool and everything about what was happening, I could tell he was a little bit nervous, by the inflection of his telepathic speech. We soon found that he could keep pace running if he wanted to, so he switched between the two, and in our respective heads we discussed what we would be up to this beautiful weekend. It was gonna be so much fun. 2 hours later, I wanted to ram this fucking piece of shaking, uncomfy, bone-jarring shite into a fucking ditch. I am indestructible, but I am not incapable of discomfort. I wish that was one of my superpowers, the power to never suffer from mild discomfort. People told me that you could ride a Harley for hours because they are so comfy. Nope. They're not like an armchair with wheels, and these hanger bars are just the right height where the blood runs out of your arms and makes them numb over an hour or so. It was definitely Harley 1, Will 0. It still looks and sounds like the bomb, and I wish it would fucking explode. That said, I would burn the fucking thing when I had finished. It would be a ceremony, burn my lifelong ambition. It would not be the first time I'd burnt my dreams. Fen, well, He was obviously finding this outcome hilarious after I dreamed of riding the American highways in comfort and cruising on down the line. He was consistently taking the piss. I like sports bikes in the UK because they don't pretend to be comfy. They are built only to be as fast as fuck, and you never get more than an hour on one until you have to get off and then fill it with petrol again. Anyhow, I was pissed off, and then guess what? It started to fucking rain. Now life was crap, uncomfortable and wet. My cool retro goggles were fucking useless with the rain, so I had to drive directly behind the SUV so that I could see. The great American dream of driving across the wilds on the bike of my childhood had been an absolute bust. Luckily, I was still going to get the chance to eat fecking Joe Rogan. Eventually, the SUV turned onto a private road off Utah 16, Home Ranch Road, and I left it knowing through the wonders of Google Maps that there was only one lodge at the end of that road that would be the place that he was staying. Fecking easy peasy. Not much in the way of detective work here. I was not upset that this was the end of the journey as I was currently suffering from a wet gusset rub. Pre-washed denim was not a great idea for riding in the rain. It just seemed to be forced down into my lap as I went forward. It was time to ditch the iron horse. I now stood naked and prostrate just off the road in the warm rays of the autumnal sun. Thankfully, the rain had petered out and I felt like I was living again. A few hundred yards away from the turning, I left my horror Harley and all my wet kit. Hopefully my shit would be dry when I got back, or even more, fucking stolen. I even left the keys in the bike out that hoped that someone would find it. Now for my next adventure. Hey Joe, where are you going with that bow in your hand? Please get the song reference. That's part one of meeting, eating and greeting and something Joe Rogan. Please subscribe if you would. Press the belly thing. Do all that kind of stuff. Like and comment and have a great day. Love you loads. Bye.